Hello everyone and welcome to the first lecture in the series Miscellaneous Python. In this lecture, I will be introducing you to Python virtual environments. I will be telling you why you should use virtual environments, what virtual environments are, and how you can use them. Let us start by answering the first question. Why should you use virtual environments? Well, by default, every project on your system will use the same directories or folders to store and retrieve third-party packages. What this means is that whichever project you are using, you are limited to only one version of any third-party package. However, this does not matter for system packages like datetime, sys and OS, but it does matter for third-party packages. Now, consider an example. Let us say you have two projects, A and B, that depend on the third project, project C. However, they depend on different versions of project C. Let us say project A depends on version 1 of project C, while project B depends on the version 2 of project C. If you are not using virtual environments, you will run into an error because you will only be able to store one version of project C. But now, virtual environments come into the picture. Virtual environments allow you to create an isolated environment for different Python projects. And what this means is that different projects can have their own different dependencies. They do not need to depend on any other project. So in this example, project A and project B can both have different dependencies, and thus they can use the different versions of project C. Advantages of virtual environments are that there are no limits to the number of virtual environments you can create or use. And they are easily created through the virtual environment, virtual env or venv command line tools for Python 2 and Python 3 respectively. Now I will show you how you can create virtual environments both on Python 2 and Python 3. So like I said, you can use the virtual env command line tool to create a virtual environment for Python 2 and venv command line tool to create a virtual environment with Python 3. Okay, so as you can see here, the version of Python installed on my system by default is version 2.7.17. Thus, if I want to use virtual environments, I will have to create one using the virtual environment keyword. Okay, you use this command. The version of Python that you want to use in your virtual environment. So here, for example, I'm using Python 3.8 -m. That dictates that create this environment for this user only. Then you call the command line tool venv, and lastly you supply the name of the virtual environment that you want to create. Here, my venv bar. Now you see when I run this command also, it also takes some time, but it is also able to create a virtual environment. So now let us see how we can use those virtual environments. Firstly, let us examine the directory structure of the virtual environment that is created. So first, let us examine the directory structure of the Python 3.x virtual environment. Okay, and as you probably might be aware, we can do that by using the ls command. So I type ls space the name of the virtual environment, and when I press enter, you see I get these 4 directories and an executable py venv cfg. So now we will examine the directory structure of the subdirectory bin, and to do that we again use the ls command. And as you can see, in the bin directory you have about 10 different executables, 4 activate scripts, 3 pip scripts, and 3 Python scripts. And these files, the files in the bin directory, subdirectory, are files that interact with the virtual environment. And of these files, the activate file is the most important. Okay, and lastly, let us examine the contents of the lib subdirectory. So as you can see, the lib subdirectory has another directory inside Python 3.8, which is the version of Python that we specified this virtual environment. And you see, when I examine the contents of that, you will see that I have another subdirectory underneath site packages, which is responsible for containing all the packages, the third-party packages that I installed. Okay, now going back to the Activate scripts. So these are the core scripts that you will use to be able to use your virtual environment that you created. And the way to use your virtual environment is very simple. On your command line, you type the word source space the path to the activate script. Next, after you do that, you will see your command prompt will be prefixed with the name of the virtual environment. And now, after you have activated it, you can install any version of any third-party package that you might require. Also, to go back to a standard Python installation interpreter, you can use the deactivate keyword. This will quit your virtual environment. Okay, so as an example, I will show you how we can activate the Python 3 virtual environment. So as you can see here, I am typing source space the path to the activate script. And as you can see, when I press enter, as you can see, when I press enter, I entered the command, my command line got prefixed with the name of the virtual environment, my venv bar. Also, once you are inside one virtual environment, you can activate another virtual environment. So let us say I wanted to go to my Python 2 virtual environment, which was called my venv foo. So I will enter a command similar to the one that I just passed for the virtual environment with Python 3, but I will just exchange the name of the virtual environment. My venv bar had Python 3 installed and my venv foo has Python 2 installed. So when I press enter, you see the prefix of my command line has changed from my venv bar to my venv foo. And as you can see, when I start the Python interpreter, I get Python version 2.7. Okay. And lastly, the deactivate command, it removes the prefix, which means that it has quit the virtual environment, quit using the virtual environment. Now you are back to your base installation, the base Python interpreter, which in my case is again Python 2.7. Like I just showed you, you can specify the Python version that you want to use in a virtual environment. So I used Python 2.7 and 3.8. I could also have used Python 3.6, 3.7, 3.9 or whatever version that I wanted to use with the venv command, and similarly with the virtual env command, I could have used Python 2.1 up until Python 3. Okay, I thank you for listening to this lecture, and I hope that you are able to create better and more synchronized Python projects, using virtual environments. And I hope to see you in the upcoming lectures. Okay, thank you. Bye.